We all know the big names in the dinosaur world, right? T-Rex, Triceratops, they get all the attention.
They really do.
But there are so many other really fascinating creatures out there. Less famous, maybe, but with these incredible stories.
Absolutely. Like the one we're talking about today.
Exactly. A relatively new discovery, an armored dinosaur found down in Mexico. It might not be a household name yet, but wow, it's got some interesting details.
That's Acantholipan. And that's what we're diving into today. It's a type of Nodosaurid dinosaur lived way back in the Late Cretaceous.
So consider this your quick guide, your fast track to getting up to speed on this pretty cool find.
Yeah, exactly. We've been digging into the research papers, mostly the work by Rivera Silva and his team. They published key stuff in 2018, building on some earlier work from 2011.
Right, those are really the main sources for what we know about Acantholipan. So our mission today, pull out the key info, paint a picture of this dinosaur and where it fits.
Let's do it. So, the discovery itself, where in Mexico did this happen? And the name's pretty unique too, right? What's the story there?
Okay, so the spot is called Los Primos. It's near San Miguel, up in Coahuila, northern Mexico.
And originally, back in 2011, when they first described the specimen, it's labeled CPC 272, they actually thought, well, it's interesting, but maybe too incomplete.
Too fragmented to be sure it was something totally new.
Precisely. Like you find some intriguing bits, but maybe not enough to confidently say this is a whole new species or genus.
Gotcha.
But, they kept studying it, and eventually they decided, yeah, this is distinct enough. It has unique features.
So by 2018, they were ready to give it a name.
Exactly. That's when Acantholipan gonzalezi officially entered the books.
Acantholipan. It definitely stands out. Tell us about the meaning.
Well, it's actually a really thoughtful combination, I think. The first part, acantho, comes from the Greek akanthos, which means spine.
Okay, makes sense for an armored dinosaur. Probably related to some specific fossil piece.
Very likely, yeah. We'll get to that, but there was a notable spike found. And the second part, lipan. That's the Spanish name for the Letiende.
Who are they?
They're a local Apache group historically known as the Gray People who lived in that region.
Wow, okay. So connecting the dinosaur discovery directly to the local indigenous heritage, that's fantastic.
It really is. It grounds the science in the place itself. And then the species name, gonzalezi.
That honors Arturo Homero González. He's a well-respected Mexican paleontologist, the director of the Museo del Desierto in Saltillo.
Right, so it's a tribute on multiple levels, the dinosaurs feature, the local culture, and a key figure in Mexican paleontology.
And it's significant because
Yeah,
this is the first one, right?
the very first ankylosaurian species formally named for Mexico. That's a pretty big milestone.
Definitely a big deal for paleontology there. Okay, so that covers the discovery and the name. Let's talk about its place in time and, the bigger dinosaur family tree, classification stuff.
Right, so time-wise, we're in the Late Cretaceous period, specifically the early Santonian age,
Okay, Late Cretaceous, got it.
and classification. Well, starting broad, it's an animal, a chordate, a dinosaur. More specifically, it's an ornithischian.
One of the bird-hipped dinosaurs, mostly herbivores.
Exactly. Then within Ornithischia, it falls under Thyreophora. That's the group with bony armor. Think stegosaurs and ankylosaurs.
Okay.
And Acantholipan belongs to the Ankylosauria. But even within that, there are different families.
Right, like the ones with tail clubs, Ankylosauridae, and the ones without, Nodosauridae.
Precisely. And Acantholipan is firmly placed within the Nodosauridae family, and even deeper in the Nodosauridae subfamily.
Okay, so getting quite specific now. And the type species is Acantholipan gonzalezi.
Correct. And the 2018 study did a phylogenetic analysis, trying to figure out its relationships to other nodosaurids.
And what did they find? Who's its closest relative?
According to their analysis, Acantholipan comes out as the sister taxon to Nodosaurus itself within that Nodosaurini group.
Sister taxon. Okay,
Yeah.
break that down for us. What does that mean in practical terms?
It just means it's the closest relative. If you imagine the family tree, Acantholipan and Nodosaurus share a branching point that's more recent than the point they share with, say, other nodosaur groups like Panoplosaurus or Edmontonia.
Okay, so they're like evolutionary siblings, the most closely related lineages in that analysis.
You got it. It helps us map out how these different armored dinosaurs evolved and spread.
Makes sense. So that places it nicely on the tree. Now let's get to the actual fossils. What did they find? What did Acantholipan look like based on the evidence?
This is where it gets a bit tricky because the main specimen, CPC 272, is only a partial skeleton. And importantly, it's missing the skull.
Ah, no skull. That always makes things harder.
It does. Skulls tell us so much. But they did find some important pieces. There's a vertebra from the back, one from the tail, a piece of a rib,
Okay.
the lower end of the left humerus, that's the upper arm bone, the upper part of the left ulna forearm bone, and the bottom end of the left femur, the thigh bone.
So a decent scattering of postcranial bits.
Hmm.
Enough to know it was a nodosaurid.
Oh, yeah. But there was one really standout piece, a very distinct spike-like osteoderm, a piece of bony armor.
Ah, the acanthos part of the name, maybe?
Almost certainly. The researchers think this particular spike probably came from the back part of the body, the posterior thorax.
And that's considered a key feature, setting it apart.
Yes, that morphology seems distinctive. Although it's worth noting, because the remains are incomplete, if you see artists' reconstructions of Acantholipan, they're often based partly on better-known relatives, like Sauropelta, just to fill in the gaps.
Right, you use the close relatives as a sort of template where you have missing information. Makes sense.
Another interesting little detail, this Acantholipan specimen, CPC 272, was found near another Nodosaur specimen. That one's labeled CPC 273.
Oh. So two different nodosaur finds close together.
Yeah. The paper mentions it. It's not entirely clear what the relationship is, but it does suggest, maybe, that multiple types of these armored dinosaurs could have been living in the same environment around the same time.
Interesting. Adds another layer to the ecosystem picture. And these fossils, people can see them.
Yep, they're housed in the collection Paleontológica de Coahuila, which is part of the Museo del Desierto in Saltillo, Mexico.
Great. Okay, so let's maybe pull this together. We've gone from the discovery in Coahuila to the really cool name-blending Greek and Apache heritage.
To its status as Mexico's first named ankylosaur.
Pinpointed its place as a nodosaurine, closely related to Nodosaurus itself.
And looked at the actual bones, including that unique spike.
Right. So what are the main things you think we should take away about Acantholipan, the big picture points?
Well, first, just its existence, right? Finding this late Cretaceous herbivore in Mexico really adds to our map of dinosaur diversity.
Yeah.
It wasn't just North America further north,
Good point. Diversity across regions.
Second, I think the name itself is significant. That conscious effort to link the science to local history and culture is really commendable and meaningful.
Yeah, I agree.
And third, scientifically, its position as a sister taxon to Nodosaurus gives us another data point for figuring out the Nodosaurid family tree, which is always complex.
Okay, so here's something to chew on then. You mentioned that distinctive spike, and the original paper notes, the fossils were found in what they interpret as a marine layer.
Marine sediments, yeah.
So what might that tell us? Does the spike or the location hint at anything about how Acantholipan lived or maybe died, and what discoveries would really help fill out its story?
That's a great question to ponder, the marine layer. Well, it could mean that the animal died near the coast and his body was washed out to sea. That happens.
Or maybe it lived in coastal environments more often than we might assume.
Possibly. Or maybe it was just transported further after death. It's hard to say for sure from just this find. As for the spike, was it purely defense? Was it for display? Maybe. We don't know its full armor arrangement.
So what would be the dream find?
Oh, definitely a skull. A skull would tell us so much more about its diet, its senses, and its precise relationships. And, finding more of the armor in place would help reconstruct its appearance and understand the function of those spikes.
So for you listening, you've just had a deep dive into Acantholipan. You now know about its discovery, its special name, where it fits in the dinosaur world, and some of the questions that still linger.
Yeah, it's a fascinating piece of the puzzle. And if this has sparked your interest, you could definitely dig into the scientific papers on nodosaurids, or like we said, maybe even plan a trip to the Museo del Desierto someday.
Absolutely. The story of Acantholipan is still unfolding, really. Makes you wonder what other ancient secrets are waiting to be discovered in the rocks of Mexico, doesn't it?